Good morning, Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today? That better for you, Doug? Is that a better?
Is, for a rainy Monday that gets dark sooner, that has lifted my spirits, Zach.
Good. Glad I could help.
You're kind of like Lady Liberty to the industry of this podcast, right? Like you stand there in the torch, no matter the weather, and you let it rip. I appreciate you, brother.
Well, I appreciate you. Morning, Adam.
I think my wife does an impression of it as well. So,
That's
Val, do you want to do the impression? Nope. She said no. Chicken. She's a chicken.
Yeah, I don't mind people doing impressions of it. That's all right. No one can duplicate it, so that's the important part, right?
Yeah, my voice cracks as I rise up, so I can't do it.
Morning, Jose. What is up, brother? Yeah, today we're sharing from a little bit of experience. So hopefully that doesn't bore you to death. Maybe you'll identify with some of this stuff, right? That's Doug's biggest fear, is that we will bore you to death today. And I am convinced that we probably won't, because, it's always fun to hear from other people's successes and failures. I think so many people, in my world, I see a lot of people telling people what they should and shouldn't do, can and can't do. And I hate when people get shoulded all over. And so sometimes it's good to share from our own experience, our own success and failure. I identify more when someone says, you know what, here's what I did. It worked really well for me. Might not work for you, but here's what I did. I get the most value out of that. How about you?
Well, my biggest fear is that you and I kind of line up with mindset, and, like whatever just happened, it's why did it happen and what was going through everyone's mind when it happened. And is that something you duplicate or you avoid? And that's where I think our brain sits at a lot. And I'm thinking, boy, most of the audience, or some of it, is just like, oh yeah, Zach and Doug. I mean, I can't go there with them. They drive me. I know that's what my wife says about me all the time. So, that's my fear, is there's a whole bunch of people that are like my wife. What the hell? She said, just kidding, honey. Today I took the day off. It's Yom Kippur, so Val has it off. And my 14-year-old son loves Christmas. Like, he'll start creeping in Christmas music through the Alexa at dinner time, and then when it's full pentatonics all day long and all night long. So I took the day off, and we're going to completely decorate his room Christmas in September. And so when he comes home from school, it'll all be lit up and Christmas tree in the room and all that jazz. So, so that's why Val's here swearing on a podcast. She said hell.
Doug is trying to get beat later on.
Well, I'm hoping she just doesn't want to talk to me and she has to do the whole decoration by herself. But it's because she's angry. See how we're doing mindset right there? Like, she doesn't know that she doesn't. Yeah. Anyway.
Except that you just revealed your secret plan out loud while she's in the other room.
I do talk too much. Too much. But don't agree with everything I say, please.
All right. Oh, poor Vale. She's got to put up with you.
Yes.
Yes. I say the same thing about my wife. My poor wife puts up with a lot. So I guess we got that going for us. But
I think on Facebook, it's a great community where someone will bring up a question. This is how I do it. And you're right. It's great to hear differing opinions. I don't think you can, it's good to evaluate, but it's not something that you should try to duplicate, because every business is different. And it does hurt my feelings. Well, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It bothers me a little bit that some people are so narrow focused and crap on somebody's question or idea. It's like, this is the place to just explore. Mm-hmm. And if you open your mind, someone might say something so ridiculous that this little LED light bulb goes off in your head, and then you head off in a direction that you would have never done that if you just kept an open mind and explored what other people's thinking and feelings are, So.
Yeah. So today, the theme for the week is focus, right? And
Mhm.
so Doug and I are going to share from our experiences. We are maybe what we've focused on before, what we're currently focusing on,
Mm.
places we've lacked focus. We are going to share as much as we can from our experience about the things that we're doing now, that we've done, the hiccups. One of the best ways to learn is learn from someone else's mistakes. That's a fast way to kind of short that growth process, because you can't
Mhm.
possibly learn everything yourself. So hopefully something that we give you helps you kind of shorten that growing period. I know I've had plenty of lumps running formerly running a service business, and now kind of leading charge in sales at another business. So
Well, hold on a minute. I have to open the jelly jar for my wife.
Oh, jelly.
What is this?
Better than balloon.
speaking of struggles,
Oh my God. My face is all red. Get this out of here. Run it underwater. How dare you try to minimize my manhood on a podcast? All right, I gotta go to prayer. I'm angry. I just heard my wife go, "Oh man," because she still can't get it open. It's all right. Anyway, Lord, I thank you so much for my wife, Val. I appreciate how my life, not knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up and did this appliance thing until I figured it out, that same uncertainty, that path of a job and not a career led me to Val coming to work for us in the summer during college. And over 20 years ago, falling in love and getting married and having 3 kids and being in debt with a house and arguing about money and having date nights and her snoring. I don't really snore, Lord. Lord, I just thank you for that relationship. And I lift up all the relationships in this family of the Appliance Alliance, the children and the spouses. God, help us focus where and put our energies where the most important things lie. And that is you first, and our family second, and our businesses often are just pulling and pushing to become second and sometimes first. So God, it's you, your supernatural power, your ultimate love and sacrifice. We just pray, God, that reigns over every aspect of our business of our lives, and help guide us in the direction where we should divide or put our energy into. And Lord, today I lift up Zach to you and his wife and daughter, Lord, and we just thank you for the love that he has for them. And we just pray too that the Spirit whisper in his ear when he needs to pause and to give a hug or to build a puzzle, Lord. And so thank you for all that. And we are overly blessed in Jesus' name. Amen.
amen. Yeah, yesterday was Lego Harry Potter.
Lego Harry Potter. That's so great. That's
She
great.
loves. So I have one of those oversized recliners from when I was really oversized myself.
Yeah.
So me and my 70-pound daughter can both,
Fit right in this oversized
fit in
recliner.
this oversized, and she'll curl up next to me and play some video games here and there. It's all about the Legos, Lego Marvel. Now it's Lego Harry Potter. So
yeah, love that.
The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rob Jones. Morning, buddy. Morning. So, don't be afraid to drop in the comments something that you are focusing on right now, something that maybe you have focused on in the past, or an area that you would like to focus on in the future. Just go ahead and drop that in the comments. I'm sure it'll spark something.
So Zach, you're like infiltrating the appliance world with this flooring company thing, and like, how can you even relate to it? Just kidding. So can you share a current challenge that you're going through in your role at the business? the flooring business?
Keeping the main thing the main thing. That quote from Stephen Covey really reigns true. And I saw it in the appliance business in myself. Because I bet you if you take a survey, good morning, Saul, by the way, and you know how you don't become an upset Bears fan, you just never watch football. So then you're never disappointed or care. People get very passionate about football. They do. It's crazy. I don't understand it. So anyway, so focusing.
Hard for you, Zach.
Right. This I have learned. No, but really in the service business, I had a hard time focusing and keeping the main thing, right? So I would get sidetracked into, someone would say, well, you got to increase your profits. So maybe you should do dryer vent cleaning, and maybe you should do commercial, and maybe you should do this, and maybe. And pretty soon you're dragged all over the place. Okay. That's my personal experience in running an appliance repair service, right? So I was doing a podcast. I was doing a minute with the owner. Like I was just doing all this stuff, right? Instead of focusing on keeping the main thing, the appliance repair, and growing that business, the main thing, people would come along with shiny things, right? And that crap vies for your attention all the time, especially as a business owner. It is so hard to turn down that noise, because the minute people see that you're a business owner, they're bombarding you with a million things, right? That's what we're going through right now in the flooring business as well. We have the owner that wants to go into kitchens and cabinets and bathrooms and this and that. And maybe we should do this and and he's just all over the place, right? And my encouragement to him the other day is, let's get laser focused and make the process of estimating floor, selling floor, installing floor. Those three things are our main thing. Let's become rock stars, better than anyone else in the area, because our competitors are crap, right? Like we see this day in and day out. And so let's really put that nail in the coffin and just become the most excellent at what we do. So past kind of coming back into the future, it hasn't really changed. Rob Jones, I could talk about that all day. How about you, Doug? What do you got going?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I wonder what we're working on is fixing something broken, or recognizing that your process or your infrastructure needs to be changed, right? Because something in the industry's changed, or there's a new factor. And then there's just like the main filter, like what you just said, right? The pick that thing that you're going to do great at and focus everything through that funnel, right? So I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like I'm in two different modes from time to time, and I'm not talking about like helping one of my managers with an angry customer, or putting out a fire, or creating a solution to take care of a van issue. But like every time something goes wrong, you have to question, is this going to happen again? And if so, what's going on here? So one thing that's been much on my mind that I wonder is probably should be and is on the minds of people in our industry is the cost of doing business has really started to climb in life in general, right? Like
doesn't matter the industry.
Our gas
all
prices,
of them are getting hammered.
Yeah, our gas prices are low here in Connecticut at $3.68 or $3.80. But just a year ago, it was in the high twos. But when it hit $4, we thought we had gas problems. Now the new norm is $3.68 to $3.80. That's still higher than we ever budgeted for in the past. And so there's these new norms that I feel like we need to adjust. So here's one. I'm old, and you're not so old, but doing 10 to 14 calls a day and working 10 to 12 hours a day in the summer months is not a thing that the industry does anymore. Working Saturdays and having emergency on-call service, these are exceptions to the rules. And hanging out with all kinds of cool people like you guys, except for Rob Jones, 6 to 8 service calls is that sweet spot that it seems like companies and employees, technicians want. So I thought, okay, a few years ago, I thought I can handle that. I
want to say it's not just want, though.
What's that?
I want to say it's not just want. I got into a big discussion about this with someone the other day. Yeah. I think it's a requirement with a lot of these computer diagnostic program washers and fridges.
It's definitely different. Yes.
Your troubleshooting process could all of a sudden, instead of that used to be 15 minutes, you're in and out because it's a wig-wag, it's a Agitdog, it's a is now all of a sudden I can't even get through the codes in 15 minutes.
No, I agree with you, Zach. You hit it right on the head. And so if you are like in camps, Republican, Democrat, you don't listen to the details and get to the truth of the matter. But what I think you just spoke is truth. That is a reality, right? Now, what happens with the customers that are getting canceled and rescheduled and finding someone else? That's a reality that's always been around. That becomes a bigger issue because of the reality you just pointed out of how much longer it takes. So let's hire more guys. Yeah, and everybody, and there is a desire. Wouldn't you agree that nobody wants to work? Most people don't want to work more than 40 hours, Zach. They want to be at home.
I'd say that's
kids doing Harry Potter Lego sets, and they want to have that balanced life. That wasn't exactly the way it was, right? So here's the problem for me at Action is too many techs is extra vans and extra fuel and extra uniforms and extra all of the equipment that you need. And then what happens when it's slow? You have to pay them to get through that period of time. So to me, that's our current challenge. And so
that's really your focus is like figuring out this cost.
I would say that's a fixed thing right now.
Yeah.
So the question then lies on how profitable are our technicians as efficient as possible. If they're only going to work 40 hours, then I want them to take the extra time to diagnose it perfectly well. And when they're there and that repair price is just in that range, it's go either way, are your people doing the best they can to make it happen, make that repair happen? And so we're trying to come up with ways to measure the truck's profit. Like I love Justin Gandy. The guy only speaks in net profit. Like he doesn't talk about how much revenue a van brought in or a technician did. He talks about after I paid the bills, this is what's left. And he talks to his people that way. And that's
become a shift though, because he didn't used to talk that way. He was
I know that.
Always talking gross, and that was a challenge that we as a group laid out to him. Like, you got to stop thinking in gross. You got to start thinking in what
there you go.
After
so the coaching and of peers alongside him, he's a great voice in the industry, and I saw that and I'm like, that makes total sense to me. So that's where we're spending a lot of energy on, is trying to figure out the efficiencies of our team.
Rob brings up a good point here. Old school workaholics having a hard time learning to slow down and work to live instead of live to work. And the reality of that is you have a bunch of service business owners that are in the older generation. Not all of them, but there are a bunch in the older generation. And so trying to shift that mindset for them, it's hard, even for my generation, the millennials. Like, we were just work. Like, that's, you work hard, you're promised this. And, I've spoke on that before. But it is hard to kind of shift that mindset. It does take time.
And if you're an old school workaholic, understand this. What I've been noticing in the last 2 or 3 years or so, like the last year or two, maybe post-pandemic, is those who've been doing it a long time got through the pandemic and they're going, okay, It was good hanging out with you guys. I'm hanging it up. I'm selling my business. I've been seeing so many businesses closing and selling, and they're selling to employees. They're selling to technicians that have been with them a while or offering that business. And you got to know your numbers, and you got to make sure that you've got as efficient of a team as you can, because you're going to hand that business off eventually. So I do think we're in a transitional period where maybe some people are checking out a few years earlier than they used to, or they don't have retirement and they want this thing to work for their retirement. So it's time to get into being efficient for sure.
I like what you brought up there. Going all the way back to you introducing what you're currently working on. You brought the ebb and flow of focus. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that, guys. Focus isn't always singular. Sometimes throughout the day, you could end up moving between focus points. The important part is where you are, there you are, right? So be present in that, right? So if Doug is in cost of doing business mode, Doug needs to be focused on cost of doing business mode for whatever set time that Doug has chosen to focus on that. And then make sure you take a break, like get away from that, break away from that, move on to something else, because you need the fresh ideas to come to you. You know, I've shared, that's why I get out on the bike, because as I'm riding, which if you're an all access member, I'm going to have an announcement after this. And it came from one of those bike focus sessions. Just a way and a thought process of doing things as I was out there. And as I got fresh, I went, oh, stop halfway through my bike ride. And I'm calling Mike and EJ and TK and going, okay, hey, so I want to try and do this, you know, and I'm talking 1,000,000 miles a second at mile 16. But that kind of stuff happens when you take that break from what you're so focused on, and you kind of shift into something else. I would say there's a 5 to 10 minute ramp for most people. So if Doug is in cost of doing business mode for 90 minutes, there's got to be at least a 5 to 10 minute on and off ramp on either side of that to shift gears, shift directions.
I love the image, Zach, and I look at it a lot like that, except in elevation mode. So when you're working on, in that example of cost of being effective in your business, and you're working with an employee to make them more efficient, I feel like you're at ground level, right? You're trying to make a change right there, and a change in mindset or process. But then you're talking about 50 feet higher, which is the whole process itself, right? And that you can't always stay down deep in there. You got to move up, right? And then at the very top, your big picture vision of where you're heading in the next 5 to 10 years. And so it's all layers right there. And you can't just focus on one thing, right?
Yeah, you do have, and you have to flow through them, and you have to have time in between them. There has to be pauses. I don't know about you, maybe it's just the ADHD, but I can't go from one thing immediately into the next thing. It just, my brain doesn't work then. It's like I can't, it's almost like I get stuck, right? Yeah. And so I need that elevation change, that time in between, whatever it is, that time in between. I need that time to kind of
imagine that. You kind of got to work on yourself at the same time and know. So for me, it was, you have to put it on a list, and then from there I had to put it on a calendar with a date. And you're right. Sometimes I would get to that point where it's like, okay, this is due tomorrow. And I told myself I was going to spend an hour just thinking about that, but my mind is racing. And you got to push that date out. So for you, it's riding a bike. I love that. I think it's dumb, but I think that's cool. That's how you do it,
I know my tile guy, he he goes and takes a walk every night at 7 o'clock. He literally, outside of his townhouse, he can walk right onto a trail, and he just goes and he takes a walk, and it just helps him kind of clear his mind and think of new business ways, think of new things to do. And he uses that as his focus time. So when he's at work, he's focused on work, and then at home, he's focused on growing. Speaking of breaking focus,
Saul's great at this, man. Saul, are you from Cuba? Because I was at Costco a couple weekends ago, and I got some Cuban coffee, and it was in the cart, and I was trying to be like frou-frou millennial Facebooky thing, and I took a picture of it, and I was going to go thinking of you today, Saul, and then I go, I think that's racist. And so then I just took it down, because what if he's not from Cuba? But I swear he talks about Cuban coffee all the time. So
I constantly talks about Cuban coffee.
He does. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Next time at Costco, I'll do that. Donut curls.
Zen moment.
Well, you know what? Thanks to Ginny recommending a book, The Gap in the Game. In one of the chapters, it was talking about your first hour in the morning is when your mind is at its greatest potential. Hypothetically, right? I mean, some people.
I was going to say maybe that's not true for everyone. Yeah,
but it kind of I agreed with it, because it's the shower in the morning when your phone's not with you, texts and emails aren't around, that I'm like thinking of stuff, and it just feels like my mind is unshackled, and so I always call them the shower moments, right? Not realizing that it's that you've just slept and your mind is rested, and now your mind is going, and he talks about in the book the hour before you go to bed and what you do with it, right? Like, we know that if you're on a screen, that blue light can affect it, but also just being on social media or watching a show that's intense, that's going to affect your sleep. So you need to sleep well, because your first hour is where it is. So that's where I've been trying to be still and think about business, think about life, is that first hour in the morning, but realizing I have to take care of the hour before I go to sleep as well. So
yeah, it is. We have those different moments of focus throughout our day. What's something that you should have focused on that you haven't focused on? What's a lesson learned moment maybe for you?
Val said my wife. I feel like I have. Well, no, let's not have an argument today. Because I took a day off. I love you, honey, and I should have focused more on you.
There's truth in that, though.
I don't know, Zach. I think that's a tricky, loaded question, because as busy people, it's really hard for us to know unless you're in a place that you're not normally in, right? Where you are thinking outside the box. You're thinking out of the normal routine. We do it all the time, right? It's like we get up, we have these things to do to get our kids ready, and then we have to get to work, and we have to check our email, and then we have to get in the van. It's just like a routine for us. So how do we create that space? So I don't know yet.
That's why I was sharing from mine earlier. Getting distracted with all the shiny and all that stuff that happens. That was definitely a lesson learned, and the lesson gained from that was keeping the main thing.
Yeah.
The main thing, right? And I go through, like, so for on the pros side, I guess the thing that I am focused on right now, I shared in the text message as we were beginning to discuss today's topic, creating leads and improving the sales process. Like, I am laser focused on how do we drive the leads into the business? How do we foster those leads, nurture them, take care of them, whatever you want to call it. And then how do we turn those leads into customers? Like, how do we move that? And I'm not talking lead gen. I'm talking like, what is a true good way for me personally for my business to do that. So that's kind of one of my laser focus moments right now. And I think it is for so many people, hence the Mastermind slow season strategy. Oh gosh. Rob Jones.
I don't know. Is there a we could set the camera up and I can talk over the curtain if you guys want. I think Rob wants that, to be honest with you. I'll tell you what, you say laser focused, and I do love laser focused moments. Like, hey, let's work. This is an issue. Let's figure out how to take that issue and make it go away. Or let's see. For me, the term I keep using nowadays this year is moving the needle. I'm going to put some energy into something specific, and let's see if we can move the needle. But for me, at Action, 25 to 30 people on our team, my less laser focus is trying to make sure that we're building a great leadership team with the idea that our vision and mission and purpose as a business that comes you guys make it really hard for Zach when you're making the comments on the side screen. I could see his eyes shift over to the side screen. One time I said something profound that could change the universe, and Zach missed it because he was looking at Rob Jones's comment.
It's just ADHD, man. Welcome to my world.
So listen, vision, purpose from the top down, which is Jay Miskin. It's my job to take that and channel it down into our leadership team. And what I've thought about this year is how cool it is that we can take our own interpretation of it as long as it stays true to its intent and add our own variations of passion to it. Does that make sense? That like what Jay is striving for, I look at it, interpret it, and take some of the gifts and talents that I have, and my perspective enhances it. It flowers it in a way that only I can do that. And then I have my service managers and my support staff managers, and they're working with the team. And if they can do the same thing and we don't lose track of its original purpose, it becomes a real beautiful thing that is created by a team who are drinking the Kool-Aid. So that's what my focus has been on, big picture throughout the year, is making sure that they understand the important role they have as a leadership team, and that they speak vision when they're speaking to an employee about a specific thing, like keeping a clean van. You know, like this guy who's struggling with a clean van or whatever.
Yeah, and again, that goes right to the ebb and flow, right? So you have your big overall, like this is what we're trying to do. So I say I'm laser focused on the sales process, right? That means that when I'm taking an intentional time, I'm setting aside an hour a day, maybe or so, to, okay, how do I get really good at this? And then I go out and I test it. And then I ebb and flow into other things. I have the BNI meetings that I have to go to. I have the other networking meetings. I have training that I have to do. Like, all these different things have to happen throughout the day. So it doesn't mean that you're literally just spending one day and that's all you're doing. You're going to ebb and flow out of these different points of focus throughout the day. And as a one-man operation, been there, done that. Sometimes it does get hard to kind of keep that focus.
And you know what, Zach? You and I, we both don't own the businesses we work for.
Correct.
So if you're listening and watching and you own a business, hear it from our perspective, right? That we want to know what our purpose is. The funnel. We want to be able to do everything that we do and lead for you goes through the funnel. And there have been times, and Jay embraces it, where he is just such a strong visionary ADHD kind of guy that he's all over the place. And so even for the owner of the business, they need to utilize that funnel of the ultimate purpose of why we are who we are and what we do. And it gives you and me the ability to lead even the person who owns the business, and they want that. They may not know it yet. You might not know it yet, but when you want a bunch of mini yous reminding you and holding you accountable in a positive way of our focus and purpose, because those people that are great visionaries, man, they've got so many ideas that they're just spinning around trying to chase their tail. They need integrators to grab a hold of them and keep them focused. So if you don't have an integrator, if you don't have somebody that can take direct orders from you and then kind of hold you accountable, you need to find that person. And there's often integrators in your team. You just have to find them and then empower them, teach them, train them, get them an education, reading some books. But I think a strong integrator to go with our passionate owners is very important.
Speaking of growing yourself, like I said, we have the Mastermind kicking up. If you are an all access member, go into the group and tune in. I'm going to have an announcement right after this. But 4 weeks, slow season strategy, super excited. Friday, I locked down week number 2, October 14th. October 14th. We have an accountant from Porty Brown coming in to go over budgeting, what that looks like, and she should be bringing a spreadsheet on kind of how to begin to put budgeting in. Some of you guys aren't ready for QuickBooks yet. Some of you guys are using QuickBooks, but you don't understand the ins and the outs. So she's going to really break down budgeting in week 2. So I'm really super excited for my friend Danielle Martin to come in and teach budgeting as a part of Mastermind ServiceAllianceGroup.com. Click on the link and then you can see what each week is going to bring. That's exciting. Wednesday, we start a new book in the knitting club. We're starting Clockwork. Can't read that, but it's Clockwork. Gasper is leading off for us this time around. We meet Wednesday morning on Zoom at 6 o'clock Central Time. So
yeah, I would never do 6. That's terrible. It's 7
6 o'clock
Eastern.
Central. 6 o'clock Central.
You
7
Central
Eastern.
people are impressive, I'll tell you.
So if you're interested in joining the book club, reach out to myself or Doug. We'll get you a link, get you hooked up with the Facebook chat that we have going on for that. Plenty of opportunities to grow yourself, grow your business, grow your technicians, grow your CSRs, whatever the case is. Plenty of resources out there to kind of help you out with that. So hopefully we helped with our prattling experience today and the different things that we've been focusing on and not focusing on. Mm-hmm. So, any last minute wisdom before we let Rob and Saul sidetrack us again?
I think that this Wednesday book study thing is pretty special and pretty cool. And I feel like I'm not a great reader, but because I'm hanging out with this group, I don't have to share anything. I do, but I don't have to, right? There's no pressure to share. There's just to come on and listen to other perspectives about the chapter that we read. So if there's any fear or concern, just buy the book. For this one, I'm just doing Audible because I'm reading another book, and my brain can't do both. It's impossible. So I'm going to do Audible. It's not. It feels like it is for me. Listen, I think I've done about 16 books this year, and that's more than I've ever read in my life.
I am proud of you, by the way.
Yes,
like coming from a guy who was like staunchly against reading to a guy that's read 16 books. I'm super proud of you. Like
I almost feel like I'm not wearing a bra and underwear when I say the book club. Okay. So, although calling it knitting was a very passive aggressive way of me being fearful, but no, just anyone out there, man, just grab the book, Audible or real life. Just come on reach out to one of us. We'll get you in the link, and don't say a thing if that's going to make you nervous. And that will get you through the book, and you'll see it gets easier from there.
If you're interested in reading, I'm going to wrap up with this because I'm all about growing, and today was all about focus. So sharing from my own habits, $1 Million Habits. Okay. $1 Million Habits. It's one that I listened to, and now I have the physical book because it requires some highlighting. So I'm in the middle of that. And this is his second book. Again, sales process. Told you. $100 Million Leads, Alex Hermazi. This is his second book, and both of them are good. I've listened to both of them on Audible, and now I own the physical copies of each. So just some light reading if you're interested in shifting your focus and challenging yourself some more. So
Zach, before we go, you want me to share a secret?
Sure.
This is from a guy who hasn't read many books before. What I say? I didn't say redded, did I?
I don't know. I'm not arguing with Vale. Vale's
We have
scared.
a whole day together. We need to get along. Whatever, Val. So here's the secret. When I read these books, there's not always profound, earth-shattering news. But the stuff that I read affirms what I believe, or sometimes reminds me. And there's been at least 8 or 9 times I'm like getting off my butt because I read it in a book, but I already knew it. So it's the act of discipline and focus on your own brain, trying to get you to think outside of, I got to order the parts. I've got to get those parts returned. I've got to pay those bills. Payroll screwed up. I got to fix that. It makes you make time for yourself in your own brain without your wife. I know that. I know that you can ride a bike and have the same thing, but it's great to be amongst authors and these great ideas. So whatever. Do you know what? I'm going to work now. I'm going to work. Team Zach. Team Zach.
I habit stack. I listen to books while I ride the bike, and you know.
Yeah, but I can't habit stack because my memory doesn't work that way. Whatever.
Superpower of ADHD.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my wife has it because she's never looked me in the eye for more than. I'm not going to say anything because Rob and Saul will just start ripping from here. So we're just going to wrap this thing up, and
we've digressed.
I can't wait for work tomorrow, to be honest with you.
Guys, we hope this was helpful. Even though we're prattling and lost now, we're going to shut it down, and we'll see you next time on the Morning Grind. Bye, guys.
Have a great day.